when Dennis first started working with us as a CG artist, I had no idea that he had written for Star Trek The Next Generation. At one point he mentioned to me that he had spoken with Mike Okuda via email, I think, and Mike had told him something or other. And so I wrote back and I said, wow, you got an email correspondence going with Mike Okuda, that's pretty cool. How do you know him? And he goes, oh, well, ever since I worked on Next Generation as a writer for the episode Tin Man, I've maintained kind of a relationship with him. And I said, well, that's cool. And that was the point at which I found out that he was actually a writer, and which actually turned out to be very convenient for us, because when it turned out we needed to rewrite one of our scripts, I just said, hey, Dennis, you're a writer, we need some help here. And he was more than willing to help us, which was great.
So it would just use our weapon's energy as fuel as well.
It must have a weakness.
It would help my analysis if we could send probes in close to get a readout of the power core. But that might alert the Tholians to our presence.
Jason was incredible. He's the director of photography and ran the camera most of the time. And he was just so creative and just worked the camera like it was his own eye.
Exeter is it's hard to compare Exeter as a production to other things going on in town or anywhere that I've worked on, because there was so much attention to production design and creating this science fiction show and having it be, you know, believable sets and faithful sets and things like that. So I never worked on anything that was this low of a guerrilla budget, shot on TV, but yet had such a high standard of production. So it was an interesting first-time experience.
I'd always thought that the trip out to West Texas was going to be fun, and it turned out being a lot of fun. We got there around, around 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon. Made camp, went out to the location where we were going to be shooting, checked it out, got back, had a good time sitting around the campfire the night beforehand. The day of, it still hadn't started raining yet, but we knew the rains were coming, and we knew it was going to be overcast, which when you're filming, overcast is a really good thing because it paints everything in a nice even light. You don't have all these shadows and harshness to deal with. So we were happy that it was going to be that. I would say around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it just started plain out raining, just raining hard, and it was cold, and we were up there on top of this butte with the wind flying by us, and it was pretty miserable. But the shots really looked good because we had that tension that nature was bringing into the shot that really portrayed really well on
ADR. You go in the studio and do it?
Yeah. So you're going to come up from there now. You got to stop us at the spot right there.
Oh, shit. Is there more?
It's just a fucking mess.
They're blowing off of this onto there. She's going to look at the big, huge, giant rock thing up there.
No screen, remember?
No screaming. Can we reset the actors back there? Yeah, reset! Reset!
When we were trying to decide where we were going to shoot this movie, I just figured, well, we're going to find a warehouse space or whatever. But Joel really wanted to do it at Austin Studios, and Joel made contact with them there. I didn't think it was going to be affordable to us, but once we talked to them, and they had told us that they liked to work with local groups and they could make it affordable to us, it seemed like it could really be possible. And when we first talked to them, it sounded like it was going to be a lot cheaper than it ended up being, but it was still very affordable, and they worked with us within our budget to make sure we were able to use the stage and get done the bulk of the filming there.
We pull in, and you can see from the time-lapse photos that it looks like it's a huge building, 14,000 square feet. You could put planes in there because it's an old airport hangar. And it just went from this little squished down spot in my garage, which is just a small 2-car garage, to this huge, you know, open span of space.
Okay, let me tell you about Austin Studios. I'm gonna give you the straight dope on this place, okay? It's a nice concept, okay? Austin Studios, hey, old airplane hangars is humongous, right? Everybody can go ahead and make your movie, and there's been some interesting films that have been shot there, and it's great. But what we're talking about is a giant metal box in the middle of summer in Texas. So an oven, basically. And then now let's take about 10,000 watts of concentrated light and put that in there too. I'm surprised we didn't have any heat casualties. Nobody passed out, nothing. I mean, it was amazing. We had 0 heat casualties on this. And I was in the military and I've seen people pass out over less.
You walk onto the set, you have this feeling of awe. You think that Leonard Nimoy or William Shatner is going to walk around the corner any minute, and then you see the chair. And it's like, should I? Is anybody looking? Can I? And then you walk up to it, and you touch it. You don't really sit in it at first because you're not quite sure whether your butt is worthy or not. But then you touch it and you swirl it. Most, you know, have to kind of twirl it to see how it swirls. And oh, God, it's got like ball bearings on it. It twirls so nice. And then finally, when nobody's looking, you ease yourself into it. And then when somebody's looking, well, I was just cleaning this off right here.
What in blazes? Commander Harris. Commander Harris, respond.
Sir, Congo's vanished.
Richards, reestablish contact with Commander Harris.
I'm trying, sir. I can't.
Shasarian attack cruiser, heading 14 Mark III. Bearing down fast.
Go to red alert. Arm weapons.
So that's what it was like for me, and especially once they got the view screen in place. The first time I saw it, it was more or less not quite finished yet. They were shooting some head-on shots, so the view screen wasn't in place. But once you got the view screen in, and it was like almost 3/4 of the bridge had been built, that's when you really got a good feeling for it, and it was just fantastic.
Sitting in the helm chair, sort of getting a feel for where everything sits in the bridge. You know, you look at it on TV, and it's a really different experience to sit in the places where these characters that you grew up with sat, and you know the familiar places are different.
Transporter room.
You know, from the other side.
They lead me around the perimeter of this one big plywood construction, and all of a sudden I'm standing on the bridge of the Exeter. And it's that Starship bridge that I used to watch on TV all the time in the 60s. And this soundstage is so very much like what I would have imagined it was like to be there when they were shooting the series that I loved so much when I was a kid. There's the briefing room being put up over there. This is the bridge. They've got sections of the bridge pulled out so that they can move lighting stuff into it. People are in costume. People are walking around looking at scripts. I was just overawed by the thing. I had been on the sound stages where they shot The Next Generation when I worked on that, and that was awesome. That was a peak experience for me as a fan. This was similar. It was amazingly similar, and this was sort of, I said to myself, this is the closest you're ever going to get to being on the sound stages where they shot when they were shooting the original